And howdy, friends and neighbors. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to the RGR live stream. We're going to talk about a number of things today, and a lot of which are going to come from you. So hope you all are doing well. I am having a good day, and we are going to get off and running here. Really at the top, I just want to hit real quick on the fact that it's not just about Mahomes. I'm sure we'll talk about Mahomes a ton tonight. But if you're new to the channel, we do this every Monday night. So feel free, jump in here. I'll just make an opening statement about whatever's on the top of my mind, and then we get right into the questions that you guys ask so that you get answers. That's it. Announcement-wise, tomorrow's got a little rumors thing for you, and then I'm going to record a few things going forward that are just hit and miss, kind of all over the place, wrapping up where we're at right now before they try and get to the NFL season. That'll be a whole other topic. You're also going to see later in the week some group video that we did where I, as the host of the Locked On Chiefs show, got with all the hosts of the other Locked On AFC West teams. We all kind of went at it debate-wise. So I'm going to give you some of those videos back-to-back there later in the week. So look for those. Everybody dug them last time, so I'll try to give you even a better feed this time with a better video, knock on wood. So that said, it's got to come down to the defense playing better as well. That's why Tyrann Mathieu's on the cover for tonight. And it's not just Pat Mahomes doing Pat Mahomes things. We know that. Teams are going to adapt. Teams are going to be able to try, and the whole league made a push to be able to put up more points. And so the defense has got to step forward as well. And it's going to be up to Tyrann Mathieu to lead, especially the backside of the defense, in making bigger hits, in making bigger plays. He in particular, he talked this offseason about the number of times he got his hands on passes and didn't come away with the interceptions. That's got to improve. Everybody's got to take a step up, and I think having a leader like Tyrann Mathieu back there really helps. We know what the front four is going to do, whether Chris Jones is here or not. They have Frank, and they have some of the other guys that we know what they're capable of. So I think that sets them up well. I'm sure we'll talk about Chris and all his contract implications tonight as well. Before we get going any farther, tonight's beer, for those of you that are interested, is, let's see if I can back that up and actually get it to focus. There we go. I'm using the good camera tonight. That's why everything else is out of focus. It's focused right here on the plane of my face. This is out of focus, and so is everything behind me. This is called Ancient Old. This is a Fooder fermented Saison. And Fooders are those huge wine casks made out of oak. They give a very distinct flavor. This is made by True here in Denver, a great company. I'm sure they're nationwide distributed, so you guys can get that if you like. Give it a shot. Cheers to you. And I will say this too. If you have an inkling towards craft beer or thinking about trying to start home brewing, feel free. Adapting the other channel to go all beer all the time. So it's going to become RGR Craft here pretty soon. And the podcast will move over to this channel so that all the Chiefs content is here, and we're going to spread it out a little bit more, which may end up getting to the point where we have 5-6 days a week where we have content here. And I have the headphones on because Dan might join me later. We're not sure about that, so we'll have to play it by ear. But here's to you guys and everything that you do for this channel. We'll have more for you soon. And we'll start tonight with an old friend from the islands, Pono Kwai. Don't usually see him till the end of the stream, so hey, you're in here early tonight. Nice to see you, bud. What would you like to see get done for these first few years of Patrick's contract as far as free agent and veteran signings while we can still afford it? Who would you like signed? That's a very good question. I'm going to lean towards guys that can complement. I think they need another outside pass rusher. I want to see somebody that brings a speed element. I don't think that guys like TJ Watt or anybody of the really high end guys are going to get away. But you're going to see some secondary tier guys that are good pass rushers but not elite, that are going to be worth some decent money, but teams aren't going to be willing to pay them top dollar. So I think that's where I'd like the Chiefs to look. And more importantly, I'd like to see them look at the defensive back position. I don't think it's going to happen because I think Brett Veach has proven that the coaching staff and he have come to the determination that they don't have to spend a lot of capital on defensive backs in particular, and if they do, specifically the cornerback position. I'd love to have a shutdown corner, but I don't think that's going to come in free agency. I think that, if anything, is going to come in the draft. And so we'll just keep hammering away at drafting corners. I'm going to scout those probably first and foremost until they fix the position, in my opinion. And fix is a relative term. They just won a Super Bowl with the guys that they pretty much have right now. So it's not like it's completely broken. You're not limping down the highway on a donut. You know what I mean? But it can be improved. And I think as the rest of the league pours the resources into trying to score points, getting speed receivers. I mean, what we've seen the AFC West do basically this offseason. As the league continues to do that, defending it with defensive backs is going to be more important. So that's where I'm coming from. And not to get off topic too fast, but I want to show you guys this. I'm going to throw my screen up here, my other screen anyway. It's good having two monitors when I'm doing this and the camera up top. So this is a view of the Mahomes contract, and this is what Pon was talking about. And if I go over here and zoom in, we'll get a good look at it. And that's because of these cap numbers right here. And this is the sweet spot where he's making less than even Russell Wilson, even on this super contract. And it's going to allow some opportunities to add some players. They're talking right now, as of the last couple of days, about status quo. So they're trying to keep the cap level in this year when he goes up to 24.8, which would have been his fifth-year option anyway, and matches what it is here. So it's not a huge opportunity, but there is some opportunity there. They're going to have some cap fall off. Right now, they're estimated to be around, I think it's 35 in cap space next year as current contracts sit. So there is some space there. And then it gets a little bit more troublesome when he gets into the 40s. That's an $11 million jump in cap space allotted to Mahomes there between 22 and 23. So you have 3 seasons. I agree with you. The first 3 are the way to go, and it allows them to spend a little bit. I don't think it's going to be super huge, but I think it could be something that they can add with. So that's it. Let me get this back out of here, and we will go back. Thank you for that, Pono. Nice to start the chat with you. I see a lot of friendly faces. Nice to see everybody in here. Cole, Gary, Jeremy. Hope you guys are doing good. Folks, if you are new, hit the question marks at the beginning of your question. It helps me find them. I do believe I saw something from Aaron. Yes, he is in here. So everyone say hi to our fearless moderator, Aaron Morrow. Thanks for doing this for me, bud. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Oh, and I just scrolled to the bottom for some reason because I'm terrible at scrolling. Okay, so here's Chris. And I believe Chris was next. Let me scroll real fast and just make that for certain. He is. Okay, good. So with the cap space opening up from Hitch, Sammy, etc., and the contracts go off the books, what impact players would you want them to bring aboard? That's a pretty good question, too. And it ties back into what Pono was talking about. You know, I would have to go look, and that's what I'll try to pull up now for you guys over on Spot Track. And if you missed Spot Track, they do a lot of good work. They get a little long-winded. If you listen to their podcast, and I do suggest that you check out the Mahomes episode in particular, they go deep dive into it. And over on their Facebook page, there's even a walkthrough about the contract, how it works, where the bonuses are. And I think it's a great resource. I think Jason and Over the Cap do a great job too. I go back and forth between them. I find navigation a little bit easier on Spot Track, so that's why I'm using it here. It's not an endorsement. I use Jason's site just as much. Over the Cap and Spot Track, I think, are great. And if we go up here and we just go to the Chiefs in total, I want to show you that number. And then we can go to free agency, because that's what it's going to be. If we go, and I'm going to put this on the screen again so you guys can see this. I'll take your question down there. So what you can see here is that this is 2021 and 3.5. I'm sorry. It's 3.5, not 35. That was a misnomer that I just threw out there. I'm sorry about that, guys. So there's not a whole lot of space there. And then you look at 2022. If I hit go on 21, it's 23. Sorry, it didn't come down that far. And so you have a little bit of space. That's maybe a signing worth. You go to 2022. And what do we get to? I think it's around 35. No, that's when it really jumps. And that's what you're talking about, I assume, is when those contracts come off and you get to this, even with the Mahomes deal that you can see here, is hanging in at a very, very large number. I think, what is he against the cap? He's at 31 there against 113. So there's room there. There are other things that need to be done. We look at free agents. This is going to be the Chiefs in particular. If it loads. This is last year. Let's look at next year. And you can see when some of these contracts come off, it provides some opportunity to go make some hay about what you want to do. And these are the guys that we're talking about. They are going to make the refi is what I call it on Hitchens, makes him less likely to be gone, but not out of the question. And that opens up some ideas about how do you fill in. I think Dan Sorensen will get another contract from somebody else. If they bring him back, it's going to be a similar situation to DeMarcus in that they'll let him go out and try to get a contract. And if he doesn't, then they'll bring him back on a cheaper deal. And I think that's great, not only for them, but for him as well. And if that happens, then he'll be back. If not, they're going to be looking for another safety. They're going to be looking for somebody I think that can play more coverage than play in the box. But I think that's because the next draft class in particular is more of a box safety type draft from what I've seen so far. And I've only gone over maybe the top 20 prospects or so. I do just a glance. And the Moneric watch list came out today from a site that I respect. Those are all guys who could be in the running for the Defensive Player of the Year. And so it's kind of my starting point when I scout guys. If they were playing this year, we don't know if that's going to happen. So it's going to go back to the 2019 film, which Dan and I have been trying to accumulate fast and furious here so that we have material to show you guys, and we will be doing that. That said, trying to think with the class, there's nobody that stands out in the top of my mind right now. I know David Njoku asked for a trade, and I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think they want to run 2 tight end in Cleveland. I think that's Stefanski's thing, and I don't think he wants to go away from that. So I can't see them actually making that decision to let Njoku go. But that doesn't mean they're going to re-sign him after this season. So in 2021, he's a free agent that I would look at. Somebody that is a true tight end that can line up in line as well, but give a bigger body to go with Travis. And I think that's something that the whole league is really looking at. I think it'll definitely pay off for the Chiefs. That's something that they want. So just off the top of my head, that's one guy. Cole, what's your take on the whole Redskins things to me? You think it's a bunch of BS. I'm not a Native American, so I don't really put my skin in the game in that. I can understand why that one in particular might be derogatory. I don't think the Chiefs is myself because I don't find that a derogatory term. Calling somebody the Redskins name in the past has been a slur. So I can understand where they're coming from. And it's not like it's new. People have been pushing for it, protesting them for years and years. It's not till all the rest of this stuff happens. So, hey, moving forward, I don't have a problem with that. Hot and spicy. I put this up because I know it's not a question, but I wanted to put it out there because Mike, you hit me on a message a while ago. Dan hit me earlier. Evidently, Chris has been saying a bunch of things. I had the kids out. I had to go drive them up and down. And so I was in the truck for quite a while this afternoon. I haven't seen a lot of this. But yeah, from what I'm hearing is there's a lot of innuendo going on Twitter in particular, but I guess on Instagram as well. I don't know what any of it means, you guys. I can't tell you what Chris is thinking or what his reps have come up with or if they've reached an impasse. I just don't know. All I can tell you is I don't think it pays. I don't think it's a good thing for Chris Jones. I don't think it pays him in the end any better to sit out this season than it does for him to play. I don't think there's an advantage for Chris Jones in not playing. Yes, there's always a case of a chance of injury, and I can understand not wanting to take any extra chances. That certainly makes sense, and I'm not going to, have anything negative to say about it. If he decides not to do that, that's on him. I'm not going to make a big stink about it. But I think, honestly, you're best served in that situation to play out the season and put forth a good effort and put up more numbers. Prove that dip that you had in sack production last year wasn't just your natural decline or that you're gaining injuries. We know we had the knee, or the calf. I don't think that was a big deal. I don't think it's anything permanent. But there are some that are a little concerned about it. And I guess that's fair. But I would, if I was Chris, get in and get some work done. That's what I would do. Mr. Porter, Mountain Dweller. Yes, I am. Will Dan Sorensen play for the Chiefs in 2020? Such a huge part of the success. Yes, I think he will. I definitely do think that they want him here. And quite frankly, they haven't done anything to make any moves to, not have him. Quite frankly, I don't want Armani Watts in the box. I don't think the Chiefs do either. I think they want him playing deep if he plays. Honestly, in supplementing for Juan Thornhill, because they haven't gotten into camp, because there are no OTAs, and because we don't know where he's at until he starts running and starts doing things. We don't know about Juan Thornhill. I know he says he's in good shape, and that's perfectly good, but nothing changes a plan like contact with the enemy. So let's see what happens when they start practicing and see how Juan feels. I could see there being a possibility where maybe his recovery gets delayed a little bit just because there hasn't been enough activity in the off season. And that leads to the point where I think, honestly, maybe you just want to rest him a little bit, give him a little bit more time to recover, and then Armani Watts plays. That's not the situation because Tyrann and Dan Sorensen are going to play a lot, so you don't have another backup there. I know I told you guys all about Snead, and if you missed the film review, it'll either be in the show notes or up over here tomorrow on replay, or tonight on replay. Snead's a guy that can play some free. He can come up and play. I don't want him in the box. Like, he's not a Sorensen type. He doesn't tackle quite that well. He's not as strong. He's not as big in terms of thickness. He's got longer arms. I think that puts him towards the corner side. But he can play some free safety. He can play nickel. He can play some corner. It gives him another piece to move around. I think he and Tyrann might be guys that can kind of switch around. And eventually, if Snead can learn the defense and get used to the game as quick as a rookie can, I think he's going to be in good shape. I think moving from corner to safety last year allows him to see the bigger picture, and I think that's going to help him. But he can't replace Dan Sorensen. So yes, Jeff, absolutely. I think Sorensen is here unless something crazy comes down and the Chiefs do go after Jamal Adams. You do that, and all of a sudden you don't have a need for Dan. I think they might try to keep him anyway, but you don't have a need. So 2021 is a different story. We'll get to that when we get to that. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a free agent at 32 years old at that point. He's under contract for 2020, and that is the end of Dan Sorensen's contract. I'll put that back up here if you guys want to see it. So yeah, he's under contract here at 3.6, 4.7 is the cap hit. So that's a pretty good cap hit. You get some savings, but I don't think that that's enough to warrant it. So I'm pretty sure Dan Sorensen's safe unless they come up with something big as a replacement. I don't expect that to happen. Good question. And let's see who's next. Folks, super chats are open. If anybody wants to help out, I appreciate it. So does Dan. It helps me help him. Should we trade Chris Jones so that we have breathing room in terms of cap space? I don't think we need an elite DT to be successful. Johnny, that's an interesting question. And if they had another edge rusher, I would say go ahead and do it. But you saw even when Chris went out to defensive end on the other side from Frank, that duo, the two of them together, is really what churned the butter and got them to collapse the pocket. Pennell put in a couple of good plays. I know Derek Nottie had a couple of nice plays, but they're not consistent pass rushers. It's going to be up to, and I think I'm going to do film on this next week on Colin Saunders, because whether Chris Jones is here or not, Colin Saunders is the guy that should be the next guy up in terms of three technique pass rushing. He played some end in college. He played tackle in college. He's quick with his first step. And I thought he did really well adjusting to not only the play speed of the NFL last year, but honestly, to the play strength. I think he was underpowered, and that's what happens when you play at a D3 school. You just don't come into the league ready to do battle with seasoned NFL veterans. That's not anything bad to say about Colin Saunders. He just needed a year to get going. Hopefully, not having the offseason program doesn't set him back too far. I don't expect any of the sophomores, Juan, McCole, Colin, especially, to make any huge leap like we would normally expect in year two, because they haven't had the season that they needed to have in terms of training with the team, training with the coaching staff, with the strength staff, learning the defense better. Yes, they've had this virtual thing. That's not necessarily the same. So I think we're going to see a slightly stunted progression for all of the 2019 draft class, and they'll really hit their stride next year in 2021. But I still think we're going to see some improvement. I think it's Colin Saunders is a guy that we're going to be placing a lot of focus on, because if you don't lose Chris Jones this year, I can't see him, if he goes and plays an entire year on the tag, I can't see him being willing to re-sign here, period. So I think that puts that impetus onto Colin Saunders. Mako, do you think that Sammy will leave next year? And if so, do you think a first-round receiver so we can keep a stacked wide receiver room? I think that's perfectly within the realm of responsibility. You've heard some of the guys that do media, like Daniel Jeremiah has said, the same thing that I'm hearing from guys who scout on their own and are not media, that this wide receiver class is nearly as good. And if they progress like we expect, if there is a college season, that this coming wide receiver class is going to be better than the last. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity. I don't think it has to be a first-round receiver in that situation, though. You got to look that Tyreek was fourth. McCole was, second? I mean, you don't have to spend it in the first, and quite frankly, I expect the Chiefs to pick in the 30s again. So I don't know that designation having to be a first-round pick really makes you have to do it. So, but adding to the room will definitely be so. I don't think Sammy's going to take another reduction. And we saw that they don't bump up very much in cap space next year. So that's going to be an issue. I'd have to look at his years to see what next year's salary is going to be for him. That's a very good question. I will try to address that next week. But so, yeah, it's definitely in the plan, but I don't think it has to be a first-round pick. Hot and Spicy, have you seen that Jones tweet? No, I haven't. Somebody told me what the gist of it was, but I haven't seen it myself, and I don't know what the context is, so I'll get to it. Justin, Mr. Troba, why did we sign 3 quarterbacks? Don't get me wrong. I'm glad we got Matt back. I am too. And they let Shea Patterson go. Honestly, he didn't have a draftable grade for me. I was kind of surprised they brought him in. Clearly, the only thing they've had to go on is the mental capability to pick up the offense, and I'm guessing he didn't do that very well. Because they haven't had any physical time on the field, they haven't seen that. They can't evaluate that. Excuse me. They're just going off of how much he's been able to learn and get done. And evidently it wasn't good enough that you went out and got a 35-year-old quarterback again. I'm glad for it, though. I think what this means is that it's going to be a battle for the backup position. I don't know that Matt Moore and Chad Henne are both on the roster this year. So I think that could turn into the battle because I think they like Ta'amu. I think they like what they saw when he played in the other league. And I think Andy's kind of been infatuated by having a guy that is a little bit more similar to Patrick in terms of his ability to move outside the pocket than are Matt or Chad. So just something to keep an eye on. And I want to point out, Mr. Troba, new addition to the back of my room. Probably isn't focusing very well, but thank you. Who's next? Gary. Could Hitchens get cut to save salary cap? No. In fact, this is one of the things that I'm talking about in that rumors video tomorrow that I recorded earlier. I'll get that edited up tonight. That's ridiculous. And I know the channel that put that out, and I think they're just fanning flames for no reason whatsoever. If you were to cut Hitchens, that means that you have to start Damian in the middle, and you have to put Neiman at the Sam because Neiman can't play in the middle. And honestly, I don't want Willie Gay in the middle either. And then in the nickel, you're talking about having to go to Willie and Neiman or Willie and DOD. They're not even sure how to use DOD yet. So that is a stretch. And quite frankly, you lose money cutting Anthony Hitchens. I looked it up today. I think it's 3.6. You lose. You make your cap situation worse by letting him go. So, no, there is no truth to that. It is not going to happen unless they, get offered somebody crazy in a trade for Jones. That's the only scenario that I could see that being a possibility. Good question, though. Gary to Jerry. Okay, hope I'm doing this right. Oh, testicular. Don't worry, that channel is going to cover whiskey, too. I heard there are 3 or more teams that are in cap hell with over 20 plus million over the cap. Will Jones' contract drive us over the cap? It will not. He's 16 right now. Signing the tag this season won't change that whatsoever. He will play for that same number. They're all good there. An extension will likely reduce his cost, much like you saw with Patrick's numbers. And I can go back and show you guys that. Patrick did or accepted a contract structured much like Frank Clark did, in that the base salary the first year is really low. That's what the Chiefs have been doing lately. Honestly, since Brett Veach took over. Let me show you guys this. So what they did is the base salary here for Patrick is just $825. Sorry, I guess I shouldn't say just. That's kind of rude. That's $825,000. So I'll just back off of that one. But for NFL standards of contracts, $825 is the base. Then he goes up to $990. And then these are still stay very small until 2023. I think the same thing would be expected with Jones if he signs the deal. So, and we don't even know what the deal is for what the total number is. I think the bigger thing for Chris Jones is what's the total guaranteed money, because that's what the players really pay attention to. Because that shows you the faith the team has in you, and how much are they guaranteeing they're going to give you straight into your bank account. That's the number. And then they all like to have some bragging rights about being the highest paid guy, especially, we're not talking about a backup or a second tier player. Chris Jones is elite at his position, so he wants to be the highest paid player. And that comes in average. Patrick Mahomes just jumped into the front spot at being the highest paid player on average. But like I showed you earlier, these salaries keep him well under where the top 5 players are. I think this 2022, I think at that point, he'll still be the 8th highest on that year in this contract. Yet contract-wise, overall, he has the highest paid contract. So that's kind of the two things that players want to see. In the meantime, if they do that and if they are able to extend Chris and he does accept a contract, it will likely be structured just like this, because it allows them to keep it small and tight up front and then grow into it as the cap continues to grow and as some of your older players fall off. And that's what we saw when we looked at the cap earlier, how going forward, it takes quite a jump in 2022. I think it was 113, did it say, that's free? So that gives you that room to get there. I think that's quite frankly, 2023 is what I meant. Quite frankly, I think that's why Patrick's numbers don't go up until that 2023. In order to keep it low, keep it tight, and be able to still do a few things, keep that there, and then boom, you can kind of jump up when you have some built-in space. I would expect the same thing. And the question will be, is that part of the problem? Is it the total number of dollars that they're not agreeing on, or is it the structure? That's what we're going to have to find out. I do expect that we will. Great question, as always. And testicular, I knew you were out there. Drew Brees did more with less than Dan Marino. Fight me. I don't know about less. I think they've done a good job in New Orleans, that is, of giving him more of a run game, at least more of a consistent run game that is more adept to the current environment of how the game's played. But yeah, Dan had weapons. Dan had a solid line. I think they've done a good job doing the same thing for Breeze. I don't know. I think, honestly, there's some bias that Drew's a shorter guy. And I think that is true. I think there are people who feel like that. And your follow-up. Oh, man, you hit like 4 in a row. Okay, we'll go through these. Do Mahomes' small hands contribute to his fumble problem? I don't think he has a huge fumble problem. And I'm not sure the hands are any kind of problem at all, to tell you the truth. If it gets to be a repetitive thing where we're seeing more and more and more, then I'll worry about it. But I don't think so. And be honest, is Mahomes better than Aaron Rodgers in 2010 or 11? No, not yet. I don't think so. I would put right now, Patrick is at about 80 to 85% of what his potential is. In the 2011 season, I want to say, even though the numbers weren't as grossly exaggerated, I do feel that Aaron Rodgers played more exacting football, was able to dissect defenses better. I think Patrick will tell you, and I've heard him say it multiple times, that he's still got a ways to go in terms of being able to put things in the right place, not forcing the ball where he wants it to go and not where it should be going. I think we're going to see that evolution. That's going to continue to get better. Cole, that's funny. Well, shutdown corner won't come until the next GM, which is funny. Another thing that I need to talk to you guys about. I'll do another short video about the article that came out on The Athletic. Is something I really like that they do. They get the agents to talk to them about the negotiating process and, most importantly, what they think about the GMs. Some interesting stuff about Veach in there. I'll do a little video on it and let you guys know. Infopocalypse. Who will take the Raglan role of being used as obvious run plays in short yardage? That's the question. They don't have one. Beyond what they have in Davian Wilson, who in short yardage can still play. I think what you're going to see, he can move over to do some of the things on the line of scrimmage that they did with Reggie, but I don't think that they have to do that. I think they did that with Reggie because that was a way to use him, because that's what he's good at. And so they took advantage of his natural talents and kind of changed the game plan to utilize that. It was smart as Spags. I don't know that they want to do that going forward because like Wilson's similar, but I don't think he's as stout. And quite frankly, that would mean that you have Hitch and Willie in there in short yardage as well. Neiman, DOD, these are all question marks against the run. They brought back Mike Pennell for a reason. They want Colin Saunders to continue to get better. They want to stop the run with their 4 defensive linemen and keep the linebackers clean. That's going to be the challenge. So hopefully we'll see that. If they have to bring in and stack the box, I think this year you're a little more likely to see them add a defensive lineman than a linebacker. Because most of the time when we saw Reggie do that, he would come out to the edge off the line of scrimmage there on the end. I think they can do that with K-Pass. I think they can do that with Speaks probably. And so you're getting a similar thing accomplished by using a different personnel group. So that's just my gut instinct. I don't know. And quite frankly, whether it's due to COVID or something else, they might end up bringing more linebackers in. So maybe they're going to have a specialist, which I think is the best role for Reggie, to be that run stop specialist. And I'm glad he was here. He helped them win. Harley, that's a very good question. Oh, and I just scrolled too far. Hold up. Man, I am way behind on the chat, even more than normal. Testicular, compare and contrast Dante Hall and McCole Hardman. Dante was much more like Tyreek in his ability to change direction. I think McColl's more of a straight line runner. And quite frankly, I think McColl has slightly better hands in terms of in the offense. But Dante was much more like Tyreek in terms of his ability to get one angle, set a team up, especially in the returns, and then cut it back. That's what would stand out to me. Pono, how about the Chiefs Cardinals swap out the Jones boys? Our linebacker core would be short of for several years. Yeah, I mean, Chandler's good. I thought he went somewhere else, though, but I see your point. Yeah, a player-for-player trades, they just don't happen very often. That's why the thing about Jamal Adams was so unique, because that's the one thing where both players seem very unhappy where they're at, and maybe that sparks something. Most of the time, you're not going to see a player-for-player trade. Jerry, our defense has changed from last year from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Are you more confident about the defense getting better? Absolutely. And I think Spags spoke to that about 3 or 4 weeks ago and said that what they've been able to do in lieu of practicing on the field is they've been spending so much more time in the classroom. They've been able to explore, not only because they're doing more in the classroom, but because guys have the basics down. And so now they can get a little bit more interesting. They can do some crazier things. They can explore more options for that defense. And I think if you have that basics down, like we saw at the end of the season where the defense was good enough to get wins, I think they can take a step forward. I'm pretty confident, buddy. Curtis. Sorry, not a question for me. Steven, how are you, Mr. Concepcion? What does Andy's Super Bowl win do for Marty's legacy? As they both have the reputation for being good coaches who couldn't get the big one. I don't think it hurts Marty at all. I think it's strictly a celebration of Andy being able to get the rookie quarterback. That's phenomenal. That's what put him over the edge. I think if anything, it might put another shadow over King Carl because he didn't find quarterbacks. There were a lot of quarterbacks in the time that Carl was running this franchise that they could have gone and gotten and didn't. And so trying to constantly do retreads and bring in older veterans that never paid off, at least not with a Super Bowl ring. I think it says more about that than it does about Marty myself. Hot and spicy. Why do we take Breland Speaks over Juju Smith-Schuster? Because they weren't as concerned about wide receiver at the time. What was it? Can't remember who was starting at that point. But they felt like they had a good basic, and they thought that there was a big hole at end. So I think, honestly, that's the one that kind of got away from Brett Veach, where he found something he really liked, and he zeroed in on it. And I think it took him a little too far. I think since then he's been a little more measured. But we know Brett Veach drafts for what he likes. He went and got Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he liked the way he plays. He went and got McCole Hardman because they wanted him. He has targets. It's not just the guy at the top of the board. So next year in the draft, when they say, oh, they're just drafting for the best player available, remember this. That's not how Brett Veach works. Last time I asked about Israel, you said your thoughts about him. You watch his films. So what's your thoughts about? I haven't seen it yet. I am willing to. I just have so many things on my plate. I'm going to write a note right now, though, over here to remember to look. And I have to spell his name right because that's the big problem for me. Spelling in general. If you all follow me on Twitter, I apologize now because I can't spell for anything. Mukuamu. Gotcha. I will take a look at that. And I will have that for you, not next week, but the week after. Next, let's see. Harley, since we have the best defense, why don't we put the same energy into our defense? Since we have the best offense, why don't they put the same? It's a number of things. Quite frankly, current NFL rules favor the offense. So part of it is a philosophical idea that you put your effort, your money, your dollars, your contracts, your picks into the side of the ball right now that has the advantage. And you stack it with athletes. And that's what they've done. That's what's been successful. And then obviously the quarterback being the quarterback, having that goes a long way towards scoring all the points that you need. Whereas bolstering the defense, you could spend the same amount of money, same number of draft picks, same level of draft picks, and not get as dramatic an effect on your wins and losses because of the way the game is played and officiated right now. So that's my personal thought. I think some of it is systemic. They have decided it's going to be offense first. The other thing is that Andy's more comfortable with that. Andy Reid wants to throw the ball. He wants to be an offensive juggernaut. Brett Veach has worked for him for years and years and years and understands that concept and buys into it. I can't remember, was it Nagy the quarterback to Veach the wide receiver or the opposite? Offensive guys. At the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to. Good question. Ryan White, do you think it's more likely that they extend Fisher or Schwartz next offseason? Would you prefer to have an elite right tackle or a pretty good left tackle for Mahomes going forward? That's the big question. And I got to say, quite frankly, I'm torn. Because here's the thing. Fisher has gotten steadily better. And no, he's not elite. He is very good, though. But he's a very athletic tackle. You don't see that all the time. That's why there was such a big stink about Wirfs in this last draft, because he is that athletic. That's why Tyrann Smith makes so much money, because he is that athletic. Those kind of left tackles don't come along that often. So that's really what it comes down to. I think it's rarer to find an athletic left tackle than it is to find a solid, like functionally elite right tackle. That said, Schwartz is the better player. Question is, how long does Schwartz want to play? He's older. So that's going to be my question. I think he's older anyway. Now I have to go look. See, you guys keep me on my toes, and then I'm constantly rechecking and making sure I have a clue about what I'm talking about. There are times where I will kind of step on it because I get my head going one direction. And let's see, Fisher right now is definitely making more money. So that would be a factor too. Let me open that up and we'll look at it. And the thing is, it's not the same as it used to be where the left tackle was way more important. That is definitely not the case. But yeah, 2 years. Eric Fisher's 2 years younger. So if you're talking about an extension only, that would lean towards Fisher. But I think in terms of being able to just say that side is taken care of and move on to doing something else, I think that would be Schwartz. My personal thing would I would keep Schwartz. Jerry, any news on Thornhill? Nothing new that I have seen specific to his condition. I've seen him on social media a little bit, but I haven't seen anything very specific. So, is there another Jamal Charles in college? Steve Concepcion. There are a number of players. I don't know that I've seen any clips of anybody that resembles Jamal to me at all. I've heard somebody say Etienne reminded them of him. I don't see that, but I haven't watched a ton of his film yet. quite frankly, running backs are not high on my list of film to watch. So I'll probably watch receivers before them. But at the end of the day, Jamal was a track guy. So think track guys, think guys that have breakaway speed. And you can find some of those. So I think there's going to be options. And one of the guys that Damien's been kind of under the bus since the Super Bowl. When I thought he played a great game, could have been MVP. And now with Clyde Edwards coming in, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a great back. It doesn't mean that they're going to kick Damien out. So I expect Damien to be here. And after that, then maybe they look at maybe adding somebody next year, maybe the next 2 years, something like that. See what Darwin can bring you. See how Darrell recovers. There's a lot of questions. And they like DeAndre Washington as well. So right now they have a pretty good room. And I'll be interested to see like how they handle that. Firefighter Farmer, how are you? Have the rookies signed yet? None. That I have seen, zero. And I haven't been on for the last few hours, like I said. But other than that, no, they are not signing yet. There are some rookies starting to sign and make their contracts done. The Chiefs aren't one of them yet. And I think that's got to be still trying to focus on Chris Jones and kind of setting that, like they told Chris Jones a few weeks ago or months ago even, we got to get Mahomes done and then to you. And so after him, if they either come to an impasse or they come to a contract extension, then they'll have to go. Otherwise, I think there's still a lot of question marks about when the season is going to start, if the players are going to show up. I know the NFLPA did a vote. I think they're doing more. Like, we don't really know how it's going to work yet. I think until then, we're going to be all right. Let's see. Jerry, what are your thoughts on the signing of Moore? I hinted at it a little bit earlier, but I really like it. I thought he earned a return. I don't know if he was reluctant because of his age to play again, or the team just, was more bought into Henny, but I was surprised he didn't come back right away. I like it. And I think he showed last year that he's able to play in this offense. I think now he has the experience advantage in this offense that he's done it under fire. And I think that gives him the edge. Aaron, I heard Chris Jones was back to the table. Is that true? And have you heard anything new? I have heard that as well. I've seen multiple reports and I've heard somebody not on media that has said that they are discussing again. That was 2 days ago. So whatever he said this evening or this afternoon or whatever, I haven't seen that. I don't know what that means. But as of a couple of days ago, I knew they were talking again. And again, I think like it was just they needed to get Mahomes done, and now they can move on to that. So I think that's where they're at. I haven't heard anything else, bud. Steve, with the emphasis on versatility in the NFL, do you think Andy will be the first coach to field an entire team of Swiss Army knives? I don't know about an entire team, but I can see them going with more guys that can do multiple things. We already see that they asked the top three receivers to play all the wide receiver spots. Now's where it's going to get really interesting. This is where John Lovett comes into it, and I've been telling you guys about him. I think he can play a hybrid role, a gadget role. Gadget's a bad word. People take that as a negative thing. Swiss Army knife, like you said, is a really better way to put it because he can line up at fullback and run routes out of the backfield. He's not a lead blocker. He's not taking Anthony Sherman's job blocking anytime soon. But he can run routes out of the fullback position. He can run routes off the H position, which is back of the line of scrimmage. And if he grows a little bit, they might even line him up as a split out, as a tight split like Kelsey does when he goes in the slot. I think that could work. I think that also lends itself to Ricky Seals-Jones, who was a college wide receiver, has been converting to tight end. He can line up in line. He's not terribly strong blocking, but he can get in the way. And honestly, that's all any team actually asks of tight ends these days, and they can break him out. So you're seeing those players move all around. And when they line up either Hardman or Tyreek in the backfield, that gives you another wrinkle. So, I mean, I think we're close. Andy's only got maybe what? Yelder and Sherman's even lined up at tight end. So all of the skill position, all the pass catchers are lining up in different positions, multiple positions. So I think you're really close. I don't think you're ever going to get a lineman to go catch a pass, although I think they'd like to try it, at least a couple of them. But I think they're close to everybody being a guy that can play multiple positions for Andy's offense. It's a very good point. Alex, Chris Jones is only about the money. Don't believe me? Go look at Instagram. Okay, I guess I'll have to go check that, man. I will go check it out. Do you think Jones is more worried about his money than this team? I don't know. I've never interviewed Chris Jones. I've never had a conversation with him. There are players on this roster that I have spoken to that I get a little bit of a feeling about. I don't know anything about Chris Jones. But I will say this. There is a time when the players, and it is their second contract, that you have to get your money. And I think the difference here is the Chiefs feel he's a very good tackle, and they're willing to pay him like that. I think if he was asking for what this tag is at around 16, 17, I think the deal would be done by now, maybe even 18. But demanding Aaron Donald money, I think is too far of a step for a guy who hasn't been consistently doing it for as long as Aaron Donald. So I think that's where the impasse is. So on one side, I can see the player needs to get paid when he needs to get paid, but he needs to have a little bit of room to maneuver to come off of that if you want to be a champion. And so right now, it seems like for Chris, it's more about the money, but I don't know that for sure. That's just my impression from out here, seeing everything on Twitter like you guys are. Mr. Concepcion, are you wary of the Chiefs rewarding players with big contracts? Houston and Barry were not the same after the extensions. I think it's Houston that is sitting in their mind. Now, Justin was not that happy with the way things went down with Eric. I think Justin was not that happy with what happened with Tamba. But Justin clearly had injuries after that contract extension. He had one of the best seasons in history as a pass rusher, and then he got hurt, and that coincided. I can also say when he came back and he was healthy, I didn't see the same fire from him. And I think that has bitten the team a little bit. I think they are a little wary of that. And I think that it's really about a person. You have to know the person, and you have to have a good inkling of your expectation for the person and how they will react to making that money. And I think that's what the negotiation tells you. I can't say that, but I think the Chiefs have an idea. So I agree that that's definitely a concern. And you see a lot of players around the league get paid and then slack off. I don't know how to take what's going on with Chris Jones because I haven't heard a peep from him and I don't know the man. So I'm not going to act like I do, but that's my perception. Mako, I'm worried about how Jones' contract will be post-contract. I don't see the same worries from Pat getting his. I might be crazy, but I feel like Jones doesn't always go 100%. Absolutely. I'm going to do film. I have a little thing on Jones halfway done. I haven't recorded it, but I've done the research. And if you want, go back, get on Game Pass. It's free still from the NFL. Go watch the Chicago game from last year. Watch them defend the run. And you'll see what I'm talking about. The effort is not the same when it's not a passing down. That's partly because he was hurting. It had been a long season, but I do feel that is a factor as well. If he was 100% happy to destroy the rush, coming at him as he is to go get the quarterback, much like Aaron Donald is, I think you would see a different thing, and I think this contract would be done. Ray Booth, do you know anything about Matt Sebas, tight end from MSU? Is that Michigan State? I met him today. He looks like he had a workout. He has a workout with the Chiefs soon. I do not recognize his name. I'll have to go check him out too. Okay, add him to the list. Hold on, you guys. That's SEY. All right, I'm adding that too. All right. Steven, what's the newest college football trend? Do you think the NFL will try to emulate it? I think they're kind of going back on offense towards some of the stacks. And I hope that they're starting to run the ball a little bit more effectively. Watch Chuba Hubbard this year. I think I'm saying his name right. Watch him. Watch how he runs the ball and the volume that they give him. I think that's going to be very telling. Chuba's a guy that I like quite a bit, and I would love to see him in Kansas City, but I don't think that's going to be in the cards. But hopefully they adapt some of that and kind of go back that way. Firefighter Farmer, DOD, a Sorensen replacement. That's a great, great question. And it's something that I would experiment with if I were Matt House and Steve Spagnuolo. I would be looking at that because I think he has a speed to play strong safety. I'd have to look at their combine numbers and all that, but I think he's right around the same area in terms of flat out speed as Sorensen. And he's definitely got the build for it. I would look at that. I would like to treat him as a nickel linebacker or a strong safety that can come into the box. I don't know if they're to that point yet. Steve Spagnuolo definitely was specific in saying that, it took them till the end of the season to figure out how to use him for what he was going to be expected. And I thought that they did that. I think that's going to continue to evolve. Let's see. Who fits better, Sean Wade or Pat Surtain? That is a great question. Right now, for me, it's Surtain. I've only watched like one game of Wade, though. So I need to see more variety about what they do, not only on that defense, but how he particularly resolves. But Pat Surtain can fit like a glove tomorrow. He's not going to be anywhere near the Chiefs are picking. I think he's going to be a top 15 pick. And like I said, I think the Chiefs will be picking in the 30s. But Surtain is definitely at the top of my list. I put him on the watch list a couple of weeks ago. You guys might have seen that tweet, and I've done 3 games, I think, already. And more coming. Dan and I are finding more all 22 all the time, and we will have a lot of that for you this season. If there isn't an NFL season, we will move to a lot of film directly in preparation for the next draft. I will guarantee you that too. Jason Streeter. Now with a year under his belt, how would you grade Brett Veach's 2019 draft? I think he did everything that he could do. And I think the top 3 guys paid off, and that's really all you can ask in terms of guys thrown into the fire to get something done. I think McCole Hardman took advantage of his opportunities. I thought Colin Saunders progressed quite a bit. I mean, can you complain about it? I can't. I thought Juan Thornhill could be an all-pro next year. I really feel that's the high end for him. He could be the next Deron Cherry for this team. I know I don't throw those names out very often, but that's the level that I feel he can get to for the league today. Not the same kind of play, but I think he can achieve that same level. And so for Veach, I would give him a solid B+. Are there a couple of guys that I'd like to have seen pan out that were third-day picks? Yes, but that's me. Is Jones really worth the risk of signing long-term after the Houston EB debacles? I don't get the feeling he wants it as bad as he should, and he's already been hurt. Oregon Chief Chris, that is a good question. And I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish I spoke to him directly. Chris, if you're watching, or anybody who knows Chris Jones, tell him to come talk to me. I'd love to hear his opinion. You can find me at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. And the thing is, the injury you can't really fault him for. And quite frankly, I don't think any of them were serious. We did see him make some big plays in the Super Bowl that weren't sacks. So you have to take that with a grain of salt too. It's not just about sack production. For me, it's always about pressure percentage completion. You know what I mean? Do you convert pressures? Do you get the quarterback off of his spot? That's what I consider converting a pressure, is moving the quarterback. Definite emphasis on the hits and the sacks, but do you create pressure? And Chris Jones clearly does. But yeah, that's the question. Is he had some motor issues in college. We've seen him not want to play the run very much. There were even, not last year, but in 2018, his biggest year, I think there were plays that he took some off. That is a question. That's what the team is debating with. And that's part of why they're likely, Chris is here, they're likely here in terms of what they're willing to risk on it in terms of an average salary. And that's where the impasse is my guess. I don't know anything about, I don't have any context inside the Chiefs front office, but that's my guess. Jerry, did you see the video of Hill in a high school? Or no, haven't done that either. Favorite free agent linebacker to get right now, Hunter? Man, I'd have to go look at the list. Let's do that. And I'll tell you guys what I think. Free agents. Let's see if Spot Track will load. There we go. It's coming mostly. I would be very interested if there's anybody out there that I actually like. That would be my question. Let's go over to, and we're going to go inside linebackers, right? Because you got to feel like Gay and Hitch can play outside if you need them to. So let's go to inside guys. I thought Joe signed. Yeah, all these guys signed. So Goodson, no thanks. Kevin Minter, maybe in a stretch. Reggie signed, so this list is not quite what I thought it was. So honestly, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, and that list didn't give me much to go on, so I'm not going to say that either. If you have somebody, Hunter, put them in the chat, and I'll respond to that specifically, but I don't have anything off the top of my head. Mr. Passwater, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Who would be a realistic free agent pickup this year? There's not a whole lot. There's not much cap space. There's not much in the way of need. The only thing that I would watch out for is, especially if COVID does kind of run rampant on a team, who are the veterans a team releases? That's what I would look for. I feel like this is going to shift, and I said it on the radio the other day. If you missed it, I think I put it up Sunday night. I feel like this is going to shift now. In order to keep Pat armed with weapons and talent around him, I think you're going to start to see some of those things we saw in New England, where veterans that have been released want to come to Kansas City a chance at a ring, and they'll take less money for it. I think we're going to start to see some of that. Casey, just how team friendly is this contract? Is it Brady and Patriot Dynasty friendly, considering the gap is higher now? It is, and it's also relatively, it is that friendly. Even when it goes up to the 40 mils, we expected the cap to be in the 250, 260 range by then. But it's also that the team can renew every year. They set the guarantees. The team has control of that. I've heard rumor that there are a couple of clauses in the minutia, which is rumored to be a 100-page contract, that have some obstacles if Patrick wants to get out of it. I don't anticipate that coming. I don't think anybody does. But it's really that the team can just not renew his guarantee. And I think it's leapfrogging. So like in 2021, they'll have to set the guarantee on the third day of the league year. That's in March. They'll have to set it for 2023. So you have that little rollover. But anytime they do that, it's going to be eating the cap. So if they cancel a $30 million guarantee, they eat that money. So it's got to be a significant thing too. Hot and spicy, what's a realistic deal for Chris Jones? For me, I think realism is 4 years at 18 per is something they can handle, especially with the way if they give him 60-ish in terms of guaranteed money. I think that keeps the number where it's manageable for these next 2 seasons so you can stay under the cap and still have the guys that you need to have. That's my thought. Casey, I got yours. Sorry, going back up. Cole, if only Moore or Henny makes it to the roster, which one and why? I think it'll be Moore, and I think it'll be based on his play last year, which Henny didn't get to do. I think they're very close in terms of ability, but I think now Moore's got those reps. He's got that trust, whether it's said out loud or just instinctual because he played for them last year. Getting on the field, I think, changes the perception, whether it's spoken or not. Do you think the NFL will ever reach an international status like FIFA? I don't think so. The logistics of it are just too far and away. And quite frankly, I mean, I don't know. There's just so much traveling across the oceans. It's one thing to play around Europe. It's a whole different thing to come across oceans. But you never know. Nathan, does Armani Watts or DOD get more playing time this year, not counting special team snaps? I think it's Armani Watts. I think they're going to rotate Thornhill in. I think they're going to try to keep his reps down, especially the first half of whatever the season is. That's my gut instinct. And I think DOT, no matter what, DOT is still in a backup role. He will play in special situations. I think anytime they have a mobile quarterback, they're going to use him to spy. I think that's smart, and I hope that they do it very consistently. Kansas Carolina just got here. Has anyone discussed whether the helmets with full face shields will actually work and be used this season? JJ Watt said, he ain't going to do it. And I think that's short-sighted. I think when faced with either wear the mask, and they're talking about Oakley is building one. You can find it on ESPN. Oakley is building one that comes down all the way to the bottom bar. And there are some gaps in it, so you can breathe outbound. So hopefully that will help some of the fogging issues people are concerned about. And it is also riffled, so when you breathe out, it doesn't necessarily go straight forward, straight out at the opponent. It will riffle it and send it down and out in sideways. I have not seen anybody discuss that yet. I just saw the article today. I think it's a good idea. I honestly would put something out on the outside of the mask rather than on the inside. It's basically just a longer visor that is zip tied to the inside of the frame of the face mask. I would actually do something on the outside that is gives an extra ½ inch of depth, which would help with some of the fogging. Hopefully not bother the players as much, and would still give you a path to not breathe directly on people. I think what we're seeing in California and Florida and all this stuff is it doesn't take that much in terms of not wearing a mask to spread this thing around. So I think just having a barrier of some kind. It doesn't have to be super strong. It doesn't have to be super stout. I've seen mock-ups of the motocross I don't think it has to be that. I think just having a face shield, again, I would put it on the outside to give player a little more feeling, less feeling of claustrophobia and a little more space inside the helmet. But I think that's a good thing. Jack Lynch, love the Chiefs. Oh, rock on, Jack. That's cool. I always get a kick out of who's older and who's younger than me. It's funny. Everybody who's about my age thinks I'm a little younger. Everybody thinks that that's younger than me thinks I'm ancient. So I'll take it either way. But hey, it's not going to happen this year. But next year at camp, you guys, I go out the last week of camp. I'm there all the time. So we'll make more arrangements next year. Hot and spicy. What's your top 10 best drafting teams? Like top 10 ever? Man, that's a tough one. Certainly what they did in Baltimore in the early 2000s goes up there. A big part of New England's success was free agency as well as the draft, but they did a pretty good job drafting as well. I like what the Vikings did the last 4 or 5 years and trying to build that franchise up. And you have to say that the Chiefs have taken some stabs here and there. I don't know that I'd put them in the top 5, but they're getting there. And the guy who's done the best the last 4 seasons, I think, is Chris Ballard. I think it's too bad the Chiefs lost him, but he is doing a heck of a job in Indianapolis. And I would not be surprised to see them be somebody that's in the AFC Championship with the Chiefs in the next couple of years. Casey K, who do you think the Pats will be Pat's favorite target this year? I'm thinking CEH. That's a fair bet. You know, we're seeing teams talk about playing 4 deep coverages and playing cloud 6 and playing all this invert stuff where they have guys back. So it's going to be more underneath routes. And I think that's what Patrick was talking about, taking what the defense gives him a little bit better, a little more often. And that would certainly lend it to him. But I still feel like I don't know what team can cover Travis Kelce. The Raiders tried to get linebackers to do it. We saw what the Texans did last year with big DBs to try to do it. Nobody can do it. Until Travis Kelce can't run anymore or can't explode as much. And the Achilles injury 2 years ago did bother him. I expect him to be back even more from that this year, especially with the extended offseason. Until that, I think it's going to be Travis Kelce. Where do you think I don't know that one. If we establish the baseline of the top 5 inside D tackle pass rushers in the AFC, what do you assign Chris Jones? 3. Donald, Cox, Fletcher Cox, and then him. That's mine. Pona, sorry guys, I know we're at an hour. I'm going to try to race through these and get your questions answered. And there's super chats still. Man, I missed a bunch of those. Mr. Gooch, I didn't even know you were here yet. I am so far behind. Okay, we're going to do these, and it's going to take a while, but I'm going to get it done. Do you think that Brett follows the Patriots' plan to bring in vets and team-friendly contracts just to win? Yes, I absolutely do. That's what I was saying before. Mako, who will be the next head coach in your opinion? I think it's possible Andy coaches 8 or more so years. I do agree that. I don't think it's going to be Eric Bieniemy. I think Eric Bieniemy will be a head coach for someone else in 2021. And I think Mike Kafka will likely be a coordinator before Andy's ready to retire. So I don't think the next head coach of the Chiefs is on this coaching staff. Marshall, how are you? May have already talked about this, but the deadline is coming up. Do you think Jones will sign the tag, or are we going to get a deal done? I think he signs the tag and he plays under the tag. I don't think there's going to be a deal. How good do you think Lucas Niang is? I think he has potential. I think he's backup quality right now. But from what I saw on tape last year, I feel he has the potential to be a starter. I don't know if he can be elite, but I think he can be a starter. The big question for me is he shut his season down, his senior season in October. And I think he was really making strides before that, the end of his junior year into his senior. If he hadn't been hurt, he'd be a lot farther along, but I think he can be very good. Let's see. Gary, who do you see drafting Trevor Lawrence with number 1? So who's the worst team in the league? Man, that's a great question. I'm baffled right now. I spend my time thinking about the top of the league, not the bottom. Could it be Miami? No, I don't think so. I think they're going to rebound. Man, Gary, that's a good question. Could it be Detroit? I don't know. I don't know what Matt Patricia is going to do. I'm a little scared for Detroit fans. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Nathan Roth, any news on Alex Okafor? None that I have seen, my friend. Why not? Yep, I got yours before. It's written down. Never been a Jones fan. Who out there would be a decent replacement, current roster or free agent, even upcoming draft? No one on the free agent market, I think, can really do what he does. I think Colin Saunders will be put into that role. And I think there's a number of college guys that you can see as pass rush first. I don't think anybody that stands out to me that was as good as Chris was in college. So I'd say they're a little bit behind him in terms of overall potential as well. Jersey City, sorry I missed you. Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Trade a second for Pat Peterson. Yeah, hey, I'd do it. I don't care. I know he's old, but I'd still like to see him in this. But, man, that's never going to happen. They're not going to let him go. It's just not going to happen. How many times do you think Bashad Brilliant will miss and we get another corner in free? And do we get another free agent corner? He'll miss a few. I want to say it'll be 6. It might be 8. I don't think it's going to be more than that myself. We'll see. Man, they might get another free agent corner. I just don't know if it's going to be somebody that they have to squeeze into the cap because they're good and they got cut because they're older, or if somebody misses. I don't know. I'll be real interested to see who gets cut this year. Kansas Carolina, talking about linebackers, in your opinion, was Percy Snow a first-round bust? Borderline. I mean, I can't remember more than a couple plays he ever made, so probably. Aaron, I think we got you. Scott Meza, does Gay see a third down linebacker? Does Gay see being? Yes. I think I understand what you're asking. Yes, I think Willie Gay Jr. will be the nickel linebacker with Anthony Hitchens on third down. I think eventually he'll be a starter too. When they play base, that's going to be a little bit interesting. Early in the year, you might see him not playing the base alignment. We'll just have to see. Lucas. Redskins changing the name and logo. Do you think the Chiefs will be forced to make changes too? I don't think so. I think there will be some talk about it, but I don't think the Chiefs are going to have the kind of backlash that the word Redskins get. I don't think Chiefs is derogatory at all, in my opinion, and I don't think that they'll be willing to change at all, to tell you the truth. Deldrick. D. Williams, 26 for Kareem on less than $1 million. No, he's never coming back to Kansas City. Deldrick, I know you like him. I know a lot of you guys like him. Kareem Hunt is never playing for the Chiefs again. It just won't happen. He burned his bridge with the Chiefs ownership, not just the GM, with the ownership. It's not happening. Nathan Roth, will Willie Gay Jr. turn out to be a better linebacker than Murray and Queen? I am not a pro scout, but Queen didn't seem to be that impressive with me. The difference is Queen barely played until halfway through his senior year. Willie played early and was making progress and then made a bunch of mistakes and got himself, off the field. I think Gay and Queen are slightly better athletes than Murray. Murray's really close to Queen. Willie Gay Jr. is clearly the best athlete. And I think they're all going to be decent. I think it's going to be about the system. I think Queen has the best system for a linebacker, whereas the Chiefs are going to ask Willie Gay to play more coverage than be a linebacker. And I think Murray's going to be in a good situation as well, but I don't feel like that's the best fit. So I feel like they're all going to be close, and we'll be talking about them for several years. But it might be Queen that makes the biggest or it might be Willie Gay Jr. that makes the biggest impact long term. Jerry, with the Chiefs being an offensive juggernaut, forcing teams to keep up with scoring, do we focus more on the O-line in the future and give Mahomes more time and running room for CEH? Yes, for sure. And they have a lot of changes coming to the line. LDT is not going to be here forever either. This is year 7 already for him. That stuff creeps up on you. It is going to be about finding the athletic guys that you can plug in. And I do feel that they're going to continue to grow them up. I wish you would do a little bit of film or something on Lovett. I wish I had film to do, Norman. He got hurt before he put anything on film. So I have nothing to pull from. There's no All-22 in preseason, so I don't have anything. I wish I could do that too. And as soon as we have something on him, I definitely will. Mr. Gooch, thank you for your donation as always. The super chat is your thing. I'm going to start calling it the Gooch chat. Let's go 5 wide with Damian, Darryl, Sausage, Allaire, and Darwin. I'm down. You know I'll do it. Hell, I'll stand back there and try to throw the pass. Yeah, I would love to see it. Stack bundles. Do you think that who do you think will be our starting interior O-line? Does Williams have a shot at left guard? I don't think so. I think if Darrell Williams plays, it's going to be in replacing Austin Ryder. That's what I think. I think he's better as a center myself. I think they're going to give Niang a shot to go over to the left side. But I think in the end, it's going to come down to Remmers or Wiley at the left guard spot. And I think it's more than likely that Ryder keeps his job, and I think LDT definitely keeps his. So that's where I think they're at. Steve Concepcion, which player on the roster would you get rid of if you had a chance? Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think the Chiefs have a whole lot of flotsam on their roster. I don't think that there's any room left for guys that are treading water that can't produce. There might be a lineman or two that they're just hopeful they can train up that really isn't realistic that they'll ever be starting level. But I don't think there's anybody that I would just go say, hey, you're out of here because I'm in charge now. There's nothing drastic like that in my mind. Mr. Gooch, hey, man, I'm glad you made it, and thank you for the super chats. I see that there's more coming. I'm going to get there. Is everyone in the NFL steroided? No. But there are a lot, especially along the lines. Let's see. Scott Meza, any news on Breland if he's going to be suspended? He's definitely going to be suspended. He has 4 games coming for the PED, and then whatever the arrest is, and I haven't heard anything about that at all. I think he is appealing the PED, which I think it'll get knocked down from 4 games to either 2 or 3. But that's just a gut. I haven't heard anything about it. Mr. Gooch, Jonah's going to price himself out. When are people going to be willing to take less money to chase rings with Pat? I think it's coming, and I think it's going to be free agents that are coming from teams that haven't won. The thing is, Chris has a championship ring now. So for a lot of players, those are the 2 things. I need to get paid, take care of my family for the future for 30 years or whatever the future needs to be, and I want a championship. And so now he's got both. I think soon we're going to start seeing players take less money to come get a possibility for a ring that haven't played on a Super Bowl team. I think that's what the draw is going to be. Thank you again for the super chat. Let's see. Scott Meza, your thoughts on the next punter since Colquitt's gone? I think it's going to be Thompson. I think he's got the bigger leg, and I think they have confidence in his ability to be the holder as well, which he did in college. I think that's going to be key. Ryan, do you see Drew Lock as a top 15 quarterback in 2020? Probably not. I would say top 20, but I would put him probably, my guess would be somewhere in the 16 to 20 range. He's going to be better than a lot of teams, but I don't think he's going to be elite. And by elite, I would mean top 10. Maybe even top 6. Let's see. Question marks. Gary, do you see? Oh, top 10, definitely not. Scott, could Noddy be Chris Jones' replacement long-term if Chris leaves or sits out? No, unfortunately not. Noddy is a one-tech power guy. He's not quick enough or fast enough to be explosive into the B gap to attack the passer as well as Chris or somebody like him. You want a B gap penetrator, a classic 3 technique. That's what you want. Colin Saunders is more of that. That's who would replace Chris in the lineup right now today if Chris says, I'm not going to play. Is a player worth the money if they excel in the playoffs but doesn't really produce in the regular season? Or would you prefer vice versa? That's a great question, and it depends what other talent you have at the position. Like right now, for the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl, they need Chris Jones. They need that interior defensive pass rush. They can make do without that in a 3-game playoff run. The team did the same thing with Sammy Watkins last year. He missed some games. I'm sorry, not the same thing, the opposite thing. He missed some games during the regular season, but he came on and was an explosive tool to get things done in the playoffs. So it really depends on the talent around you. And sometimes the more talented positions, that's when a guy can step out, because like the wide receivers, you got to cover Tyreek and you got to cover McColl and you got to cover Travis. So when Sammy was able to take it to the next level, that's when he really stood out, because they didn't have anything else to throw at him. They had to leave him out there on a corner by himself with Richard Sherman. And that's when he took advantage of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the spreading of the strength is what gave him that option. Speaks looks like he's in shape and could be scary defensively. I certainly hope so. He does look good. I saw him in that workout and he looks lighter. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. I think that's where he needs to be in order to play well, and honestly to play outside more. He can play in at the 3-tech. I thought he did that better in college, but I think on this team, I think he needs to play outside. Let's see. Trying to get all these in, guys. I know we're like 15 minutes over already. Ward or Hamilton, your thoughts? Antonio Hamilton? He's not even a thought. He's a special team player. He's not going to play defense. If they have to put Antonio Hamilton on the field to play defense, Chiefs are in trouble. Let's see. When all is said and done, Brady is 6-3 in Super Bowls, and Mahomes is. Oh, that's a great question, Casey. Mahomes is 4-1 in Super Bowls. I think he can get to 4 more. I'm not sure if he can do more than that. We're going to find out. This is going to be tough, you guys. Keeping teams around him and a defense good enough to help him, it's going to be tough. Casey, could you imagine the Chiefs had the Colts O-line? It wouldn't even be close. You're absolutely right. And like I said, Ballard knows what he's doing, man. Let's see. Last couple of questions I think I can get to you. Pie Desert. Or Pie Dessert. If Jimmy G hits E. Sanders over the middle with 90 seconds left, the game is far from over. We're down 3 or 4 points in the amount of time on the clock. Pat, any time left goes deep. I don't know about that. I think honestly, those 2 plays where they passed back to back when they could have just run the ball, that was the turning point for me. Yeah, if he hits Sanders at that point, possibly. But no, they were down at that pass. 90 seconds left. Will Speaks be a part of the team next year? Will he be productive? He'll definitely be on the team, Rob. I'm not sure how productive he is. We have to see how well he's recovered from the knee injury. I like that he's trimmed down. Hopefully he's been training hard as well to get to that weight. If that's true, and he can kind of be more explosive off the get-go, off the snap, I think he's got a shot. I think after he engages, he's pretty solid. I think we saw that even as a rookie. But it's getting off the ball for me that was the problem with him. Infopocalypse, any chance KC goes full Belichick and trades Kelsey, Fisher, or Schwartz after next season? Pats are notorious for trading good players rather than giving someone in their 30s a new deal. You're absolutely right. I don't think that that's the way they're going to do this. I think Andy Reid and Brett Veach are not going to trade off players they still feel are functional. It worked for New England. It worked for Bill Belichick. I don't think these guys are him. So I think they are going to ride with their guys. I think they're going to be a little bit more loyal to the guys who got them there. Even if it slows them down a little bit. I think they're more apt to make adjustments on the field than sell off a guy early. Scott, will the Chiefs defense still be top 10 or 15? I think they'll be somewhere in that range. I'm hopeful they could get to top 12. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Hot Spicy, did you ever play football? And if you did, what position? Yeah, I did. This will not surprise you. I was an outside linebacker, a tight end, and a tackle in high school. I also ran the ball a little bit from the fullback position, and I played fullback and outside linebacker at KU for a couple of years. And when I say played, I mean I never played. I was terrible. I ran out of talent in high school, you guys. But I was on the roster as a linebacker / fullback. Let's see. You and Chris Clark in a fight or amicable? We're fine. Chris has got a brand new job, and we just haven't been able to get on the same page with our jobs this summer. Everything for him, if you guys don't know, he's a CPA, so he works in the tax season and everything. And it's been extended. In fact, if you haven't paid your taxes, it's due in 2 days. So the extension and everything. We just haven't been able to get on the same page and get everything done. So we kind of split up duties for the summer, and we'll be back for the season. Bundles, isn't it Townsend? Yeah. If I said that wrong, it is Townsend, I think. Mr. Gooch, again for the super chat. Thank you. We still have Watts. So Watts, CF, landlord, doing his thing. Thornhill at one corner and Ward at the other. I don't think so. I think what's more likely is that Watts comes in to play that rover, and they put Tyrann up in the nickel. I think that's what they want to do. That's what they saw him do some last year, and I think they liked the way that worked out, and I think they have more confidence in him to go down to the nickel than to put Juan out there at corner. I think they like him playing the free safety center field kind of thing. Would you be happy with a Chris Jones for Jamal Adams swap? I personally would. Jamal can demand $20 million all he wants. He's not going to get it. No safety is. That's like the highest safety contract right now is 14 annually. He's not going to go 50% over that. So plus you get an extra year with him. So I feel like long-term, it's more economical. Long-term, it puts more emphasis on the coverage than it does on the pass rush. And I think that's more likely to be cost-effective moving forward. So I would be open to it as long as the Chiefs don't have to give up draft picks to get that done. Casey Masterpiece, you may have already covered this, but what is the percentage that Chris Jones deal gets done before the deadline? There was a rumor that they were at the table talking. I heard the same thing, Masterpiece. I hear that they're talking. I didn't see whatever happened on social media today, but before that, I heard that they were back at the table discussing. I'm still not very optimistic. I think he plays on the tag, but I do think he plays. I think that thing he did on social media about Lev Bell, about sitting out, I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think him and his people understand that what's best for him is to play, even if it's at $16 million a year. Oh no. But I don't have a whole lot of faith that they're going to come to a meeting of the minds and get to a number. But hey, if they're talking, you never know. Spicy, would you be happy? Oh, you just asked that. I'm sorry. I'm going the wrong way, you guys. Scott Meza, if the Chiefs go back to back 3 times, we call them a dynasty. Yeah, hey, if they win 3 in a row or 3 in 4 years, you can call them a dynasty. It just won't be as big as that other one in Boston. Let's see. Why not? If Justin Ross was healthy, how good a wide receiver class would it be? And what wide receiver would you choose from this class, not including Chase? Ross is way at the top. He actually popped out to me more when I was looking at Kane's film last year. So I'm with you there. I think Chase is very good. I think he was helped by Justin Jefferson. I really want to see Chase as the primary and see what that does to him. There's a couple of other guys that are escaping me by their names, but there's a guy at Florida that stood out to me on film last year. There's another guy. Was it UCLA? It's one of the California schools that stood out to me just as I was watching other people. But they're on a list buried somewhere for my watch list once games start. Rondale Moore to the Chiefs. Don't recognize his name off the top of my head for some reason. And so I'm going to let that slide. Sorry, Spicy. And that was the last question. So, an hour and 22 minutes later. Thank you guys for hanging out here, 185 people. I did not mean to go this long. So cheers to you. We'll have more rumors tomorrow about the silly things that are being said. And then a couple of snippets, smaller videos on some of the topics that we need to get into. Something on Veach is coming very quickly, so look for that. And then I have those crossovers that going to talk with the other AFC West hosts from the Locked On Network, and we're going to kind of bash it out. I'll put those videos up for you later in the week. And then next week, we'll be back with film. Dan will be back as well. So you guys have a good week. Check out tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.